The girl's chest is covered in blood. She is struggling to breathe. She desperately tries to undo the cloth wrapped around her chest. Seeing this, Tamahiko quickly grabs a pair of scissors, but the moment he cuts open the cloth, he is completely stunned. The girl's name is Kiryu. She was bought by Tamahiko's father to become both his wife and his servant. Tamahiko was born into a noble family, but an accident not only took his mother's life, it also cost him his right hand. His father saw him as nothing more than a useless cripple after that, so he sent him away to the countryside and bought a girl to take care of him. That is how Kiryu came to live in Tamahiko's house. But when Tamahiko first saw the adorable Kiryu, his heart felt nothing at all, because after being abandoned, he had already lost all hope in life. Even so, Tamahiko always treated others with kindness and gentleness, and because of that, Kiryu, who had been sold to repay a debt, decided to devote herself to caring for this husband she had just met. That night, Tamahiko still couldn't fall asleep, but unlike before, someone was already cleaning the house early in the morning. Kiryu also helped Tamahiko wash his face. Even so, Tamahiko showed no appreciation. He remained gloomy and unmotivated. Faced with such a husband, Kiryu didn't feel discouraged. Instead, she became even more devoted. Cleaning, grocery shopping, cooking, she handled everything perfectly. She could truly be called a diligent and capable wife. She even mended Tamahiko's underwear, but that only made Tamahiko feel embarrassed. Seeing everything Kiryu did, he only felt like his life had been disrupted, and instead of feeling grateful, he became even more unhappy. While Tamahiko was taking a bath, Kiryu offered to scrub his back. Tamahiko thought she was just an innocent girl who had never seen much of the world, so he asked if she had no worries at all. Unexpectedly, Kiryu felt that his words were too harsh, because she actually had two big worries. At that moment, Tamahiko suddenly remembered that Kiryu had been sold to his home to repay a debt. She must be carrying burdens she couldn't talk about. But what Tamahiko never expected was that her worry was having too much hair, making it impossible to straighten, so she could only braid it. When Tamahiko saw her hair, he couldn't help but laugh. Seeing him smile like that, Kiryu's heart began to flutter. She couldn't help but tell him that his smile was beautiful, but her words only made the insecure Tamahiko lose his temper. He immediately drove her out. After finishing his bath, Tamahiko still couldn't sleep. To pass the time, he went alone to the living room. Sensing something unusual, Kiryu followed him. She lit the heater and quietly stayed by his side. Taking this opportunity, Tamahiko wanted to know how she truly felt, because he believed that Kiryu would never willingly marry someone like him. Staying by his side must be painful, but in the face of his harsh words, Kiryu didn't get angry at all. Instead, she gently handed him a cup of warm milk. She said that when she was studying, she often stayed up late like this too. After saying that, she began to sing a lullaby. Hearing the familiar melody, Tamahiko couldn't help but think of his mother. The horrific memory of the accident resurfaced once again. Every time he looked at his crippled right hand, he couldn't calm his emotions. Seeing how heartbroken he was, Kiryu gently stroked his head and softly embraced him. That simple gesture warmed Tamahiko's fragile heart. At the same time, he couldn't understand why Kiryu stayed so kind to him even though he constantly made things difficult for her. Kiryu explained that she had come here feeling anxious and afraid at first, but after meeting him, she no longer felt scared. It was Tamahiko's small, unconscious acts of kindness that made her believe he was someone she could entrust her life to. Seeing that Tamahiko still didn't believe her, she directly suggested that they sleep together that night. That way, they could welcome the first morning of the new year together. Tamahiko never expected things would move this fast. Completely unprepared, his heart began to race. Just as his thoughts started running wild, Kiryu carried her blanket into his room. At that moment, all of Tamahiko's fantasies were shattered. Feeling disappointed, he threw away the pillow he had prepared. In truth, Kiryu had already seen through his little thoughts, but in her opinion, that kind of thing should wait until they were truly married. After saying that, she slowly drifted off to sleep. Overwhelmed with disappointment, Tamahiko turns away, ready to go to sleep, but unexpectedly, Kiryu grabs onto his sleeve. Looking at her innocent, pure face, Tamahiko almost loses control of himself. It seems like he's going to be up all night again, but to his surprise, he sleeps straight through until morning. The gentle and devoted Kiryu has already prepared breakfast early in the morning, yet the tsundere Tamahiko still keeps a cold expression. Kiryu doesn't mind at all. Instead, she takes even better care of him. And just like that, the two of them live a peaceful and happy life together. Kiryu's arrival rekindles Tamahiko's hope for life. Even though he had once lost all will to live, but the good times don't last long. This brief peace is soon shattered by a letter. The letter turns out to be from Tamahiko's father, Genichiro. Genichiro writes that in order to protect the family's honor, someone like Tamahiko, a disabled man who has abandoned his studies, would only bring shame, so he has already publicly announced that Tamahiko is dead. After reading the letter, Tamahiko becomes even more withdrawn than before. No matter how worried Kiryu is, he locks himself in his room and refuses to come out. He even refuses to eat. Even so, Kiryu still prepares dinner for him every night. She's deeply worried that he might starve himself. At the slightest sound, she rushes out to check on him, but Tamahiko still refuses to see her. The next day, Kiryu realizes things can't go on like this, so she gathers her courage and brings food into his room. Just as she is about to leave, she suddenly hears heavy breathing. It turns out Tamahiko has a fever. For him, being abandoned by his family is too devastating, yet he stubbornly refuses to cry. At this moment, he's like a walking corpse. No identity, no family. Thinking about it all, he even wishes he could just die. After learning the reason, Kiryu gently embraces him, held in her warm arms. Tamahiko finally breaks down and cries. The next day, when Tamahiko wakes up, the first thing he does is look for Kiryu. When he sees the clothes hanging out to dry, he suddenly remembers that he vomited all over her last night. He goes into the kitchen and sees Kiryu humming a tune. Only then does he finally feel relieved. Using her own unique way, Kiryu checks whether his fever has gone down. Even though he ruined her best set of clothes, she doesn't complain at all. Thinking about all of this, Tamahiko feels deeply ashamed. To make it up to her, he decides to take Kiryu into the city to buy new clothes. Ever since losing his right hand, Tamahiko has never stepped outside his home, but for Kiryu's sake, he gathers his courage and finally goes out. For Kiryu, who is visiting the big city for the first time, everything feels exciting like she's a child. They arrive at a department store, seeing the dazzling variety of fabrics. Kiryu becomes so happy she can hardly contain herself. After getting Tamahiko's approval, she carefully begins to choose. In the end, Kiryu picks out two types of fabric. She originally wants to ask for Tamahiko's opinion, but unexpectedly, he tells her to buy both. After all, he's the son of a wealthy family. Money is not a concern. Although Kiryu says she doesn't need them, she immediately takes both fabrics and walks off. This is the first gift she has ever received from Tamahiko. She's so happy she can't stop smiling. Taking this opportunity, Tamahiko apologizes to her and asks if that ruined outfit had any special meaning. After learning that it was the very first kimono Kiryu had ever sewn herself, he feels even more guilty, but Kiryu says that right now, her favorite things are the two fabrics Tamahiko bought for her. After hearing her words, a blush spreads across Tamahiko's pale cheeks, and then, they continue walking through the store together. Suddenly, Kiryu stops in her tracks, completely still. The moment she turns around, her craving for ice cream is written all over her face. Tamahiko has no choice but to give in to her wish, and buys her some ice cream. Kiryu enjoys it wholeheartedly, even trying to feed some to Tamahiko. This draws disapproving looks from the people around them. Tamahiko starts to regret bringing her here, but seeing how happy Kiryu is, he lets it go. Suddenly, the sound of a child comes from behind. Watching a family enjoying themselves together, Tamahiko feels a strange sense of familiarity, but the moment he thinks of his father's letter, he's overwhelmed with sorrow. Kiryu, ever perceptive, quickly notices something is wrong. She tells Tamahiko that they should head back, or they'll miss the train. On the way home, Tamahiko remains silent and downcast. Kiryu tells him that when she left home, her parents said to treat it as if she had already died, even though it wasn't real death. It meant they would never meet again in this lifetime. Kiryu believes that people should stay optimistic, because it makes life easier to bear. She isn't just a good wife, but also a source of emotional comfort for Tamahiko. To cheer him up, Kiryu even plays a little trick, pretending to fall asleep. She leans gently on Tamahiko's shoulder. Tamahiko is completely won over by her. The two return to their simple, peaceful married life. Whenever she has free time, Kiryu carefully sews a kimono, stitch by stitch. A month passes like this, and she finally finishes it. Wearing the new kimono, Kiryu carries a more mature charm. Tamahiko can't help but stare at her in admiration, just as they are happily chatting. An unexpected guest shatters the peace. It turns out to be Tamahiko's younger sister, Tamako. The moment he sees her, Tamahiko becomes visibly uneasy, and Tamako announces that she will be staying for a few days. Even though Tamahiko is reluctant, he has no choice. Tamako then walks up to Kiryu and begins mocking her for looking like a cute little girl. Kiryu quickly explains that she is already an adult woman, but the moment she says that, Tamako criticizes her clothes for being too childish and says her age doesn't match her height at all. Kiryu is on the verge of tears. Even though she feels wronged, she can only endure it in silence. Tamahiko is already used to Tamako's harsh way of speaking. In front of her sharp tongue, Kiryu can only respond with gentle patience. After all, she wants to get along with her. She not only helps Tamako pick a room, but also arranges everything for her stay perfectly. Seeing how capable Kiryu is, even Tamako can't help but look at her in a new light. But despite Kiryu's warm hospitality, Tamako still maintains a cold and aloof attitude. When the two are alone, Tamahiko feels deeply apologetic for Tamako's behavior, but Kiryu says it's alright. She thinks a livelier home feels happier. However, Tamako is not easy to deal with. Among all of Tamahiko's siblings, she is the most capable one. Because of that, she has been envied and ostracized by the others. After learning the truth, Kiryu says she hopes to get along well with Tamako. She even plans to prepare a welcome party. Just then, Tamako walks over and harshly tells Kiryu not to do something so childish. Unable to stand it any longer, Tamahiko was about to step in, but Tamako's next words cut like a blade, reopening the wounds that never healed. Everyone in the family has long treated him as if he doesn't exist. Hearing this, Tamahiko falls back into despair once again, but unlike before, this time, he is gentle and caring Kiryu by his side. That night, Kiryu begs Tamahiko to go up the mountain with her, although he refuses at first. The next morning, he ends up going with her anyway. Tamahiko never imagined that such beautiful scenery existed near his home. Led by Kiryu, they arrive at the mountaintop. It turns out Kiryu wants him to see the fox spirit said to live in a tree hollow. At that moment, Tamahiko truly understands just how much Kiryu cares about him, and how deeply she wants him to be happy. Then, wanting him to drink some cool spring water, Kiryu scoops it up with her hands and offers it to him. Tamahiko once believed that the days wrapped in darkness and cold would never end, but Kiryu's arrival was like a ray of warm sunlight, gently driving away all the gloom and loneliness in his world. Kiryu is the only warmth in Tamahiko's long, endless winter.